Welcome back to PSC's Tech Bytes. In this video, I want to show you how to create a custom plugin for Microsoft Copilot for Microsoft 365. And I want to show you how you can use users' authentication and authorization to secure access to a backend API, which can be the Microsoft Graph or any other third-party APIs of your own. In order to do that, you can rely on Open Authorization and on Entra ID, where you will have to configure an application for security reasons. When you do that, you can provide to your end users a single sign-on experience, and the very first time they will use your plugin from within Copilot, they will have to grant a set of delegated permissions to your custom application registered in Entra ID. In order to develop such plugin, you need to use the Teams Toolkit in Visual Studio, as well as the Both framework and C# or .NET framework. So, let's move to the demo environment and let's see how to do that in practice.
In this demo, we keep on talking about the Formula One Championship data. And specifically, I have created a Copilot plugin with single sign-on, which relies on the list of circuits that we have in the Formula One World Championship. And here is the circuits.csv file that I'm using as the data source, where you can see I have a few fields for every single circuit in the Formula One World Championship. Then in the manifest.json file, as we have seen in the previous episode of PSC's Tech Bytes, I have configured in the section about the compose extensions a command which is the search query command. It is of type query. I have a specific title and description to instruct Copilot about the capabilities of my custom Copilot plugin, as well as I do the same in the description of the application manifest, where I specify clearly what the purpose is for my custom extension and for my custom plugin. As I said, we say that we can search circuits based on name, location, and country. And we can do that because in the parameters definition of my Copilot plugin, which is actually a message extension, I have 3 parameters, and precisely the name, the location, and the country with their explicit definitions, so that again Copilot with natural language processing can understand what the purpose is of all of these parameters. I also have an action for signing out the user, because this will be a single sign-on experience with the automatic sign-in of the user, and so for the sake of completeness I have that as well in the manifest. Plus, still in the manifest, I have the definition of my bot, so I have a reference, an explicit reference to my bot. And in the final part of the manifest file, I define the web application info, where I have the resource ID of the application that is backing my bot on Azure, as well as I have the valid domains, where I trust the token.botframework.com, because I'm going to rely on the bot framework, and the domain of my solution. My solution is already running. I will not show you right now the backend code, but I just want to show you how it works in action, and then we will go back to the source code to see how it works internally. So let me switch to the Microsoft 365 chat, or Copilot for Microsoft 365 chat, and let's say that I want to search for some of the countries through my Copilot plugin. So in the plugin section, we can see that I have my circuits plugin with single sign-on in place. And by providing a search query or a prompt like list the circuits of Formula One World Championship with country UK, I will be able to trigger my custom plugin. So let's do that. Let me trigger the plugin. I have the developer mode enabled, so let me switch back to Visual Studio, and we can see that here I've got triggered my extension. I have my own team messaging extension query async method, which was triggered, and I can rely on the user token client service. I can get it through the turn context of my request. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So run to cursor, and here we can see that we can get the user token client service. We can retrieve the token of this bot for the current user, and in the token we get an access token that we can see right here in the debugger window. We can see the content of the token, and we can see that the token is for my current user, so I have single sign-on in place, and I can see a specific set of permission in this access token, and then I can eventually use this access token to consume my backend APIs like Microsoft Graph or whatever else you need to do in your backend infrastructure. Could be even a third-party API of your own. And here I'm simply reading the list of circuits from the CSV file. I'm reading the query parameters that I've got from Copilot, and then I'm searching the actual circuits to give back to the user a response, which will be a set of attachments as we do in any other message extension bot built for Teams or for Copilot. Now, of course, I've been talking too much, so the request will be timed out in the Microsoft 365 Copilot, and we can still see here that in the developer mode, we can see that we have multiple plugins configured, and the matching functions were this one and this one, which is the actual one we are interested in. And as such, Copilot triggered my function in my, this is the function, and this is the plugin triggered. And here we can see the request, which by the way was a 500 because it was a timeout request. So now I can run the same query. Let me do that. And let me ask again for the list of circuits in the World Championship in the UK, for example, again. So the query is running one more time. We can see that we will be here, and we can just speed up the process and press F5. So now if I will go back, I will be able to get back a response from my Copilot plugin. And this is the list of circuits in the UK. We can see a reference to the plugin for each of them. And we can also see that now the response was completely successful with a 200. Under the cover, in order to be able to do that, I need to do quite some plumbing, quite some activities. In fact, I had to configure my custom extension for Teams and for Copilot to support single sign-on at bot level. So what do we have? First of all, we have a bot configured in Azure, and it is this one, where in the configuration we have a backing application in Azure Entra ID. And this application is actually defined in my target tenant, and is this one, as you can see by the application ID. If I will look into this application, we can see that in the API permission, we don't have any specific permission, because this one is actually the application backing the bot. And in this one, we have an application unique URI, the one you see right here, and which is also the one that we have configured in the manifest.json right here as a resource. And then we have a scope, a custom scope, which is the access_as_user, and we have the pre-granted authorized application, which are listed right here, which include the Teams client, desktop, web, the new one, the old one, and so on and so forth. Then we also have another application, this one, which is the one I'm going to use to consume Microsoft Graph and to get an access token for Microsoft Graph. And in this one, in the API permission sections, I have the user.read.all permission that have been granted at tenant level. And as such, the very first time a user will start using my plugin, they will see a prompt which will ask them to grant that permission, because it is a delegated one, to the plugin. And then there will be the single sign-on in place, and the user will be able to always get an access token with this specific permission inside the permission scope of the token. Then we have the configuration at bot level. So if I will go back here in my bot, in my Azure bot, of a connection, and this connection called Microsoft Graph is configured to use the client ID of the application that I just showed you. So this one, 47035, as you can see, this is the application with its client secret, with the token exchange URL, which will be the URL of my application. Basically, it will be the unique URI of my application. And then we have the multi-tenancy, so common, and the list of permission scopes that I want to get in the access token. And this is the connection that I can use in the actual implementation of my messaging extension, so that by using the user token client service and by making a get token request, providing as the connection name precisely the name of the Microsoft Graph connection that I have right here, we can then get the token. How can we do that? Well, let's go to the definition of this method, and we can see that we simply use the token client to get the user token asynchronous based on the user ID, on the connection, and all of the information about the channel that we are working on, including eventually the magic code that is used by the bot framework to use it for the single sign-on experience of the end users. So it is not completely an easy task. We need to do a lot of plumbing to make it work, but at the very end you will be able to have a custom plugin for Microsoft 365 chat, which will include single sign-on and as such the capability to identify who the user consuming Copilot is and the capability to provide targeted content based on the user profile of the user consuming your plugin.
Like always, thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it interesting and I'm really looking forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.